All right, so welcome. Thank you all for joining. Happy, what day is it? Tuesday. Here I'm in Cleveland, so it's 4 o'clock here. Anybody who's out in Pacific time. You know what I was doing yesterday? I kept saying Eastern Central Time to people, and they're like, "What is Eastern Central Time?" And I was like, "Oh wait, Eastern Standard." Or I think I said it like 3 times, and then I finally realized that there's no such thing. Oh yes, so goodness me. All right. Oh yeah, it is Happy Fat Tuesday here in our neck of the woods. I'm still letting a few people in. So, all right, thanks again for joining. If you know me, you know I like to do things pretty informally. So, and I also like to do things pretty improv. So today is very much improv. I don't have a deck for you. I don't have anything super pretty for you, but I do have me, and we're going to get down and dirty and talk about how to have a non-salesy sales conversation. Before I dive into all of the curriculum, just again, I will leave time for a Q&A at the end. If you have questions, feel free to add them into the chat as we go. I will read them at the end of our little chat today. And if you could just leave yourself on mute until you come off to ask a question near the end. Today, we are going to be talking about how to host a non-salesy sales conversation. I am Dora Rankin, founder of Gypsy Soul Coaching and the Women Who Soar Collective. For folks that know me and work with me, you know that I am a full suite business coach. For the folks that don't know me, just to give you a quick who as Dora bio, my background, I spent 17 years in traditional finance as one of those senior vice presidents doing the deal. I took off my suit, threw on my Birkenstocks, and joined a startup in 2017. I also attended that fun school down the road in New York. I went to Cornell and studied women's studies and empowering women's leadership. And I took all of that stuff, and now I spend my days helping women build their businesses and create a shit ton of money. So economic power is my soapbox. How to build businesses is in my DNA. And then that comes to why are we talking about how to host a non-salesy sales conversation. It is also in my DNA to help women figure out how to activate markets and activate steady sales and steady clients in their business. So yeah, so let's dig in. I do have little notes here. So a couple of things that, waiting room, people waiting. Okay, more waiting. So there's this thing out there called networking, and I don't know about you, but I think networking is just for the birds. Networking, when it comes to like, I'm going to go out there. How many times are we saying, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to go let people know me and I'm going to figure out how to get out there and I'm going to network. And then dun, 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 you don't really get sales from that networking. So networking is what I like to call ineffective chit chat. Networking is surface level. It is what we find comfortable. And what we'll find through this is that having a non-salesy sales conversation, you can be comfortable in having these conversations if you know that you have intent. So networking, as we're just going to kind of throw that to the wind. It's ineffective chit chat. The second thing is for you to think about. These are like 3 things for you to think about. Can you get sales without a conversation? So in the world of online right now, we are seeing so much noise about funnels and how to launch and how to open a cart and get your $100,000 sales through the funnel and through the open cart and through that, right? So that's either can you do that without having an actual conversation? The answer is not yes or no. The answer is understanding that because of all of that noise out there right now with the carts and the funnels and the launches, that the conversation has now became a novelty. And I say that it's become a novelty because we're doing so much not talking to each other that the process of having a conversation, people aren't having it anymore. So that brings me to the last thing to think about. So networking, shot to the wind, conversations are not happening. It's a novelty. And the third is that, are you willing and is it in your business model to build relationships? So networking to the wind, the whole noise of all of the funnels and the launches, where is the conversation happening to convert into a sale? Where is that happening? And the third is, are you willing in your business model to build relationships? So those are the things that are just the overarching theme as I want you to think about as we go into the steps of how to have a non-salesy sales conversation. Okay, so the next is I want to give you just the analogy. I want to give you the analogy of just sales in general. So when you walk into Starbucks, you know that you're going to get some form of what Starbucks sells, right? So there's not any like big moment of, oh my gosh, I went into Starbucks and I came out with a new dog, a puppy, right? You know you're going to go into Starbucks. You're not going to come out with a puppy. But what happens when you go into TJ Maxx? When you go into TJ Maxx, you have no idea what you're really going to come out with. You know the story of like how people say they spend all that in Target. But when you walk into TJ Maxx, you may find this amazing rose amongst the thorns. You may find an Ann Taylor suit. You may find who knows what you may find, but you aren't walking into TJ Maxx thinking that you're going to get something that you know you're going to get. You don't know what you're going to get. That's what sales is. This is the sentence that I like to use a lot. Our job is to uncover something that they don't know that they need. Our job as a business owner and as our best salesperson is for us to uncover an opportunity, for us to uncover something in someone else they don't know that they need. The difference between walking into Starbucks, I know what I need. I'm going to get my caramel macchiato. And the difference between walking into TJ Maxx, I'm going to wander around. Oh my God, look at what I just got. It is a no-brainer for me to buy this because this is something that Dora solves. So that's my job. My job as a business owner, as my best salesperson, is to uncover and to discover something that you don't know that you need. And then when you realize you need it, I am there, you are there to solve this big problem that you didn't really know that you had. Okay. All right. So let's dig in. Non-salesy sales conversation. There is an art to a conversation. The art to the conversation is to first take the label off. Oh, I should go into chat and like pay attention to that. To take the label off. Another place where we're seeing all this noise is, let's call it a coffee chat. Let's call it a consult. Let's call it a discovery call. Let's call it, you get my drift. And scrap it all and call it a conversation. So basically, either call it a conversation or you can call it any of those. I don't care what you call it. But know that when you're in a conversation, that there is an art to that conversation, and that you're going to follow these steps with any conversation to uncover an opportunity. That's what these conversations are. A non-salesy sales conversation is a conversation where you're looking to take someone down a path to find out if you can solve a problem that they don't know about. Okay. So that's where the networking doesn't really work. It doesn't. The other really wild thing about this is that nobody knows this guide. So when you're on a call and you're talking to someone and you're having a conversation with someone and you get to run the show in it, they actually have no idea what you're doing. It's so fun. So let's go through the guide. Step 1, you are on a call. This is the part that you know how to do beautifully. We all know how to do step 1, which is building rapport, otherwise known as ineffective chit chat. Building rapport is, what have you been up to today? How is your morning going? How are you good too? What's happening in your world? And we all can do that. We all can connect and smile and we can stay surface. But then what do we do right after that? We don't really know. We don't really know what we do after that. So then the call becomes like, well, let's have a conversation, but nobody really knows what to do after we build rapport. So it continues to not have impact. It continues to not have any intent. It continues to be in the friend zone. It continues to be like, it doesn't have any meaning. So it's absolutely a waste of your time. Your time is your most valuable asset. So having the non-salesy sales conversation can either be completely a waste of time for you, or it can make you a 7-figure business. I think you want it to make you a 7-figure business. So when you follow this guide, this is what's going to help you make it a 7-figure business. Once you build rapport, which you absolutely know how to do, instead of sinking and then not making it, instead of sinking and having it be a waste of time, this is the next step. So your next step, no matter what type of conversation you're having, is you're going to set an agenda. And so that agenda isn't, well, Paula, thank you for getting on this call. What a lovely dog you have. I'd like to set an agenda with you for this call today. Right? So it's not robotic. It is you showing up as you, but you want to set an agenda so you both have a goal for the conversation. And a goal means that you have intent. There's a purpose for this conversation. So an agenda sounds like, right after the building rapport, so glad that we were able to find 30 minutes to get on a call today. I'd like to take a minute. This is my goal for the conversation. My goal for the conversation is to get to know you. I want to understand your background, what you're doing now, what your projects and priorities are for this year. Give me the skinny. That's my goal. Now, that's one example of an agenda. And I say that's my goal, right? And then you circle back, and whatever your agenda is, you circle back and say, what is your goal? Why they need to also say that back is because you're creating a conversation that has a mutual agreement. You both are agreeing about where this conversation is going to go. So it doesn't feel salesy. You never want to bait and switch somebody. It's the worst when you say, hey, let's get on a coffee chat, and then somebody pitches you. That's not what we want to do, ever. right? But we do want to take every conversation as an opportunity. So how do we do that authentically without bait and switching someone? So we set that agenda so we can get a mutual agreement. So once you say, okay, that's my goal. Yes, most of the time you hear, yes, that's my goal too. Sounds great. That's usually what we hear, right? So right after you set the agenda, you set step 3, 1, rapport, 2, agenda, 3, you set the outcome. The outcome is one of the hardest things to do in a non-salesy sales conversation. So one of the most important things to do, and let me explain why. When you establish an outcome at the beginning of the call, you allow for the person that you're talking to say yes, no, or maybe from the very beginning of the conversation, instead of it waiting until the end of the conversation. Again, you're establishing a mutual agreement that someone can say yes, no, or maybe. So what does this outcome sound like? My daughter would like to know. She's texting me. The outcome sounds like this. Okay, great. We both have the same goals for the conversation. The intent is there, the goals are there. Now, typically, what I find during these conversations is one of 3 things happen. 1, this is amazing. We have found value. You have value. I have value in you. You have value in me. There's value just bleeding all around. There's value. And because of that value, one of us or both of us actually needs each other's services. Awesome. Great. 2, we didn't really find anything, but we got to know each other. That's okay. It's just not right now. Or 3, we've just tapped the surface. We only had a 30-minute talk. There's some things clicking and we just need to have another conversation. So typically one of 3 things happens. 1 is a yes, 2 is a no, 3 is a maybe. And you get that out of the way at the beginning of the call. So once again, no one feels pressure. No one feels like they're being bait and switched. No one feels like they're being sold to, but there's an intent, a goal, and an outcome for the call. And what happens when you do that is the person on the other end now feels like there's actually a reason for the call, and they feel led, and they like that. People don't know what to do on calls. They are waiting for you to lead them. So this is a way for you to lead them. And that is the step. That's the stepping point to leading them down the path, because that's what we're doing. We did the agenda, we did the outcome. Now it's time to lead them down the path to uncovering an opportunity that they may not know that's there. So step 4. Step 4, this is the meat and potatoes of the conversation. And it is the profiling process. So if you're ever on a call and you tell your story and then somebody else tells their story and then everybody's quiet because nobody knows what to say, and you're like, okay, well, how can I help you? Or, well, how can I help you? Okay, well, that's great. Let's go help each other. Never. And then you never talk to each other again. That's what I don't want to have happen to you guys. That's wasted time on these calls. That's why this profiling process is so important. This is where you're going to find out whether or not you can solve a problem that they have. So the profiling is 3 levels. This is where you get to customize. You get to really customize this conversation. Because what you want to do is you want to put together 3 different levels of profiling questions that are going to help walk them down this path that you're taking them. The first level of questions, this is what we already ask. It's part of the goal setting in the agenda. So the first level of questions is your very open-ended, tell me everything type of question. you want to ensure that as often as possible, you want to ensure that they are the ones going first, because you want them doing 80% of the talking, and it's helping you figure out what questions you should be asking. If you go first, it dismantles the ability to get them talking because you're talking first. But obviously, if someone says go first, you're not going to be like, no, absolutely not. You have to go first, right? But if at all possible, if you can not go first, good. So the first level of profiling questions, those are very open-ended, and they're directed towards that goal and that agenda. So my is like, tell me everything. You're on the stage, right? The stage is yours. Tell me everything. And then you usually hear, not sure where to start, right? Start wherever they decide to start. That's where they start. So what we typically find is they talk about what's happening right now or what's going on in their business right now. And so it's our job, right, to find something that they don't know that they need. So we have to have good questions based around what's happening in their business, in their life, whatever they're sharing with you. So tell me everything. Would love to know about your business. Would love to know about what got you to where you are right now. So those very open top questions. And then once they share, because what you're doing is allowing them to share their story, then you're picking up on the things that they're telling you, and then you go in for the second level profiling questions. The second level profiling questions, that may be like either when they're done telling their story, or you pick up on something and you ask questions while they're telling their story. So those questions are going to be somewhat based around things that you do that are connected to what you're hearing. So, for example, if I am a business coach and I'm talking to a business owner and she tells me her story, I'm going to ask questions like, what were you doing before you started this business? Why is this business so important to you? What challenges are you facing around your business? What's keeping you up at night? I'm going to tie what I do into the questions that I ask that are relevant. So this is an area that second level questions, this is an area where you can spend a lot of time brainstorming and idea dumping and mind mapping questions that are relative. The better you get at this, the more opportunity you have to uncover that problem and opportunity and to pitch at the end of the conversation. So this is like where the girls meet the women. I was going to say where the men meet the boys or whatever that is. I don't even know what I'm talking about, but that, I think you get me. What was I going to say about that? Oh, when I first started doing this in the 1990s, this is an area that I have coached and developed and nurtured and trained, like a piece for over 20 years. As Paula hears in my podcast, I say it so often, like for 20 years, I've been coaching this, right? And it hasn't changed. This is such a timeless method that when you get really good at these questions, it will convert. I guarantee it 100%. But that means you have to like list out a ton of questions. I used to teach I used to coach my bankers on like build a list of 30 questions, and they look at me like I was crazy. And I'm not saying you're going to use all 30 questions, but build the list of 30 questions. So if someone says to you something, you have this question that you can tie in, and it's going to be relative. Be ready. Be ready for whatever they give you, that you have a question to get them talking more. You want them to talk more. So the third level, if you get the second level and they're they're really talking about everything that you've asked. You're uncovering stuff, you're discovering stuff, you're profiling. The third level, this is where you find out how important it is for them to solve whatever you uncovered. So if I'm on a call with someone and I'm trying to find out whether or not, you know, what their challenges are, I'm going to say things like, well, how have you tried to solve that? What have you done? How important is it for you to solve it? On a level of 1 to 10, how important is it? Are you committed? Are you ready to invest? Like, those are your decision-making questions on whether or not you can get to pain. People are going to buy when they know that the pain is big enough for them to get it resolved, but they also need to know that the person on the other end is the one that's going to solve that problem with them. So during that conversation, if the second level questions don't get to the third level questions, then you're not going to pitch at all at the end of the conversation. So it doesn't happen 100% of the time. It takes practice, right? But if you are able to get there, that third level, you are able to get there, and you hear and you know that you can help this person, that you can solve something that they told you about, then this is next. Then we go down next. But if you can't, that doesn't mean you just stop and say, okay, thanks, have a great day. You just don't pitch. You just continue on, but don't pitch. So you get to that third level, you noted it, you know it's there, it's sitting there, it's lingering, you have happy ears, like, oh my God, I'm so excited because I know I can help this person. You do not say anything to them yet. You just keep it in, you keep it around, you know it's there, right? But now they know you've really spent time asking them about these questions, they're feeling it, they know it, and then it's your turn. And your turn is basically you telling your story, you telling them everything that they just told you, but you telling them, and not expecting for them to have the profiling questions that you had. So don't be disappointed when they don't have all of those questions, because they don't know this path. But what you want to do is have your story down to anywhere from 5 to 7 minutes, and have that from triumph to tragedy, from tragedy to triumph, to have it personalized. So when we tell people what we do, as soon as you tell somebody what you do, people stop listening like after 30 seconds. So we have to keep it short, and we have to keep it attentive. Like, we want to be attractive, we want to attract them. So it's having your story be without me telling my story real quickly, it needs to have enough personal where they feel like they know you, enough vulnerability where they feel like they can trust you, and enough credentials so they know that you walk what you talk. And leave out the features. It's all about the benefits. And that may be hard to do if you're an accountant. So 5 to 7 minutes tops, you're telling them your story. And then they don't ask you questions because they don't know how and they're not sure why. And so you're pouting a little bit because you're like, maybe they're not interested in me, but it's okay. They just don't know. And so right after that, it is then time for you to summarize. This is the 7th step. Summarize is, this is the pitch before the pitch. And this is where you only summarize if you've got to that third level. And the summary goes like this. So Lauren, I so appreciated this call today. Thanks so much for taking the time to get to know me. Based on everything that you just shared with me, I'm hearing these three things. Based on all the stuff that you just shared, I hear 1, 2, 3. And I think I might be able to help you with some of that. Do you mind if I share that with you?
It's totally not how that works. The other way
Natalie,
around. Okay.
Mute me. I hear a voice. I know who she is. There, she muted me. No, she didn't. Do I know how to mute all? I don't know if I do. If you are not muted, please mute yourself. Oh, I think I did. Okay, mute. Okay. So, can you guys hear me? Okay. Okay, summary. So summary is, again, based on everything that you shared with me. This is what I heard. Based on everything you shared with me, this is what I heard. And I think I can help you with that. Do you mind if I share? Now that can also be like in your own personality. Like this is not all robotic. You know, this is your personality, your authenticity comes out. To be like completely transparent with you guys, when I get to a summary, I feel like I know that person so well that I am looking at them and saying, I have said this. I will say, listen, I really know that we're on just a conversation here, but I'm going to pitch you right now. Are you okay with that? Like you need me. I need to tell you about this, right? So it needs to be with your personality. Now, if that's not your personality, if that's like so scary, don't do it that way. Just do it based on the three things that I heard from you. I need, so that takes practice. And then after the summary, that's your pitch. When they say, yeah, sure, this is how you work with me. A pitch has three things. A pitch has a deliverable, it has a timeline, and it has a price. Now, some of us are consultants, and some of us are advisors, and some of us have multiple packages, and some of us have all these things, right? So what do we do in that case? We still deliverable, timeline, price, no matter what. And the reason why we want to do that, even if it's a range of all three, my deliverables are, this is how you can work with me. You can either work with me one-on-one or in a group. You can work with me over a 6-month term or a 1 year. And my price point is XYZ, right? So range, my price point is anywhere from 10 to 25,000. Why you want to do that is and not say anything else. That's it. Then you shut your mouth completely. Because if you keep your mouth open and you keep talking, you're going to lose them again. And you lose the opportunity of knowing if they're actually interested. So if you just say it, like 10 to 25, 6 to 12 months, one-on-one or group, then they're like, if they're interested, they're going to say, can you tell me what is the 25 or what is the group or how do we get started or what do you summarize? They're going to ask all the questions. If they don't ask any questions, then you knew that you missed the mark. So if they're like, okay, thanks, I'll have to think that over, and that's all they have to say, you missed the mark. And that's okay. I missed the mark. I don't know, five times a week I'm missing the mark. So it's okay to miss the mark. So now I have like something coming in here. And then if you get questions, that's where you dive in more and you give them more details. And then the very last, not the very last, but objections, handling objections comes into play here on how you're going to handle objections. And it's a whole nother workshop in itself. Takes quite a bit to talk through how to handle objections. But the two major objections are, I need to ask so-and-so, need to ask my wife or my husband, or I need to ask, or I don't have the money. Those are the two that come up the most. And so the money one is if money wasn't, if you could take the money fear away, is this something you need and would you want to do? So you just want to know if they can make a decision without thinking about the money. And if it's that important to them, just understanding, do they want to do this with, if money wasn't the issue? And if they're like, yes, truly, Dora, money, I'm broke, I cannot afford this, then it's how do you overcome that money barrier? And your business model, that's where you need to make a decision. What type of, how can you overcome that with them and for it to still make sense in your business model? So in my case, I say, I don't want money to be a barrier. How do we overcome this? What is going to work for you? Sometimes it works. Sometimes there's just no money and it's just not the right time, right? I have to ask my significant other is the other. So that one is okay. Absolutely understand. When can we schedule a follow-up so we can talk about all of your everything that comes up and any other concerns. But here's the thing, if you have objections and the objections come through via an email or text, you want to address the objection, but you also want to invite them to a conversation. So invite them to get back on a call with you so you can address those things with them, so you can feel through what's happening, where's their mind scaring them, and what's actually real. Because most of the time it's their mind scaring them. That's how it is for me. I was on a call with my coach last night and she said, were you afraid to give me money? And I was like, hell yeah, I was afraid to give you money. I didn't want to let go of those G's, like no way. And I'm really glad I did. I think she's on here right now. Okay, so the very last thing is always send a summary. So especially if you had an opportunity to summarize and pitch. So if there's a summary and a pitch there, send them a summary. And that summary should include what you guys talked about, that pain that you got to, quick little summary about what you got to, how to work with you, and any follow-up opportunities. Okay. Questions. I have to unmute you all. Allow participants to unmute themselves. Okay, I think you can unmute yourself. So if you have a question, go ahead. Well, unmute yourself and see if I can hear you. Somebody unmute yourself and say hi.
Hi,
Hey.
Dora.
Okay, good. Yeah, okay, that worked. Okay, so I am going to stop recording